All right, let's see what that does. All right. Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Hello.
Since I turned it on.
Hello.
Here actually in Restream. Got so distracted with the camera, forgot to turn the microphones on over here.
Wow. So they didn't hear anything that we were just talking about.
So we can just
very important.
That's good. I just needed to vent.
Yep.
It's really what I needed to do. So still nothing you guys want to check in on your phone?
Yeah.
For us real quick.
Yeah, we're on.
Okay. All right, good deal. All right. Glad that you tuned in with us tonight. This is another live episode of the Back to the Bible broadcast, Sunday nights, 7:30 p.m. Live religious broadcast where we are diving into not just what the scriptures teach and what we believe the scriptures teach, but we're also doing an examination of other things, other doctrinal points and theological views from churches that are around us out in the denominational world. Reason why we're doing that, it's similar to what Jesus did when he was here on this earth. And Matthew chapter 5, as he laid out his teaching to the audience, he started by saying, "You have heard it said," and he's speaking of the Pharisees and the religious leaders of the day. "This is what they have to say, but this is what I have to say unto you." And that's what we're going to follow after that same pattern. Jesus is the master teacher. So if that's the way he was choosing to do it, then there must be some real technique to it that needs to be followed. So we're glad to have everybody tuned in tonight. Thank you, everybody, for letting us know about the audio issues. And now we're getting thumbs up across the board that it is back on. So appreciate that from everybody. This is, and you get the PowerPoint up. Shut everything down to restart.
Dead air.
Oh.
JC missionary. I thought that was pretty funny.
This is what happens when you're gone for however long we were gone.
Yeah.
Only a couple weeks.
Yeah, right.
Jeff Brown was right.
You were right, Jeff Brown.
Yeah.
You were right.
Away.
Okay, so this is a
Here
live
we are.
religious broadcast presented to you by the Church of Christ of Lake County. You got to get the other screen up over here.
Where we say things and don't apologize.
Yeah.
You said last time.
That's what I said. Yeah.
Oh, man.
There's too many women.
I know.
Give me a minute.
We do have some boys growing up, though.
There we go. Screen share.
Some
That's what
men.
I need.
We're going to grow them into men. Good.
All right. Live religious broadcast presented by the Church of Christ of Lake County. If you're in the local area, come out and be with us. With the Church of Christ of Lake County, you receive theology without apology. The Bible teaches it. We're going to teach it also. If it teaches that we need to abstain from it, then you need to abstain. If these are things that we're needing to follow after and things that we're actually needing to do, I know that's a really bad concept that a lot of people have nowadays. They're not really wanting to do anything. You're not supposed to be doing any kind of work so as to be pleasing in God's sight. Well, how do you fit that into God's theology and Christ's teaching about being a servant?
Mm-hmm.
We are his slaves. So we're supposed to be doing these things so as to be pleasing to our master. So that concept doesn't fit in at all that well with what's actually taught from the scriptures. So come out and be with us Sundays at 10 for a Bible class, and worship assembly follows after that. I want to say welcome to our MCAT viewers, channel 189 out of Missoula. They re-air our live broadcast Saturday nights, 10:30 p.m. on that channel, I do believe. If you're watching the re-air, why not watch us live Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. We are streaming on Rumble. I looked into Instagram, and that is only going to work if you're doing it. It would almost be like what you're doing on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it through Restream, but it's a scrunched in camera view. So it would work good with Gilding Jordan's Wave.
Yeah.
Or if there was an episode where I'm by myself. Then I was thinking about it too. It would work good for Gilding. It would work good if I was doing something by myself. We need to get Reese his own segment.
I need to come up with a name though that's clever. No.
Well, since you're an electrician, and
the shocking truth.
Or I was thinking of something about Lucifer's Corner. Jesus saw him fall in his lightning.
Oh,
So,
okay. No, I like that.
Yeah.
Then it'd be like,
Yeah, see?
I like that. Okay.
See, we could do that for Reese and
Okay.
have his own little segment.
All right.
We do have a new subscriber shout out. Want to say welcome to Ward Culver. I don't know how that fits in. Welcome to the show. Welcome to our time of study and to our channel. Thank you for subscribing. Hope you have your notifications on and you're watching live with us tonight. If you are, please engage with us in the chat or call us live when we put up the numbers a little bit later. Reese's Pieces is what JC Missionary said for your segment. Yeah.
Yep. It's Buttercup. No.
Jeff Brown coming in with the same idea.
Oh no, that'd be good. Reese's Pieces. Like, yeah, he's dropping a piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
That'd work all right.
Well, I was told one day that I hope the guy said I hope that we come into an electronic fixer so that it could be Reese's PCs. Yep.
Oh, PC.
Yeah, not
PCs.
bad.
Got it.
Not
Yep.
bad. All right, but then what we're trying to do with these broadcasts and everything we're involved in, Acts 17:11, these are more noble than those in Thessalonica in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and search the scriptures daily whether those things were so. We want people back into their Bibles, searching out what it actually says, not what your mom told you or your grandmother told you, what your preacher tells you. You need to go and look into this book for yourself, knowing what it says first, then making determination as to whether they're telling you the truth or not. And from that, we're wanting to reach over to Acts 26:18, that we're trying to open individuals' eyes to turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. There still are plenty of people that need to have their eyes opened. There are still plenty of people that need to be turned from darkness to light, from the power of Satan unto God. And majority of these people are in denominations. So people might get upset with that, but in this context where Paul is making this statement, everybody recognizes that while Paul was going out and preaching to the Gentiles, he was also engaged in teaching the Jews also. Everywhere he went to the synagogues trying to persuade and present to them the truth of Jesus Christ being the Son of God. And thus he was trying to persuade people that already thought they were in covenant relationship with God. No, you're actually in darkness. Jesus himself was saying of the Jews when he was alive, you're in darkness. God's not your father. Your father's the devil. John 8:44. And so for them to have that kind of connection to God through the law, but not actually fully keeping and following the law, you had individuals need to come on the scene and try to direct them and lead them to the reality of where they actually stood. And many people think that they are just fine with God. You know, me and God are cool. We're homies.
We're homies. Yep.
But in reality, you're far, far away from him, as is described in Ephesians chapter 2. So that's why we're trying to present God's simple plan for salvation, that you need to hear that gospel plan, Acts 3:22. Believe it, John 8:24. Repent of past sins, Luke 13:3. Confess Christ with the mouth, John 12:42. Be baptized, immersed in water for the remission of your sins, Acts 2:38. And after becoming a Christian child of God, you have the honor and privilege of remaining obedient until death, Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10. Still offering a free book, Baptism Unwatered Down, to those that are not members of the Lord's Church and you like more study material on this topic of baptism. We'll let you know how you can get this book towards the end of our broadcast. So episode 137.
I approved of this picture.
Did you?
Yeah,
But
I liked it.
why do I have a mole
Oh, I have no idea. It's
on
just
my right
Robert De
side?
Niro.
it's
Yeah. You talking to me? Are you talking to me?
say yeah, man. It can do so much. You've got mail, but then I got to thinking today, another good intro would have been something like this.
Thanks. We just got a letter. 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 Wonder who it's from.
We should do that.
Thank you, Mr. Crazy 550 for
Yes.
putting that together. And we probably just got flagged on YouTube for that. Copyright.
Yeah.
So, but hey, it was worth it.
Hey, man, I love that meme where it's Corinth going, "We just got a letter," and then they open it, it says "From Paul."
Yeah.
Best one I've ever seen. No,
But we've got email from our brother Eduardo. He let it out last episode and
who, me?
was asking us some questions, and we were looking through the material and thought, you know what, this be good to make for an episode, and actually it's going to make for possibly 3 episodes. I only plan on getting through the first one.
That's what we were thinking. Is I only did this part of it because Jordan and I were talking. We're like, man, this is going to take up the time. Because if Mike has got something to say, then it's going to go on forever.
So this is the first question that Eduardo presented to us. And more than likely, it very well could be the case that somebody else has a similar question on their mind, but not wanting to ask it. And Eduardo put himself out there to ask this for everybody. So we're going to answer it potentially for everybody. The question is, are Christians called to be quote unquote watchmen? In Ezekiel 3:17, the prophet is described as a watchman to the house of Israel. This role seems specific to prophets or spiritual leaders in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, however, I wonder how this concept translates. Is the role of watchman now limited to elders, overseers, or shepherds, as in 1 Peter 5:1-4, Acts 20:17-28, Hebrews 13:17, and we're going to read those passages in a moment? Or does it also extend to preachers, evangelists, and teachers, or perhaps even to all Christian men or all believers? Verses like Mark 3:19, 1 Corinthians 9:26-27, Colossians 4:17, 1 Timothy 4:16 seem to suggest that certain individuals have a responsibility to watch over themselves and others spiritually. I'd appreciate any biblical perspective you have on this. So in our chat, Joseph Geis is in the chat, says, love it. God with, we just got a letter. Michael Sullivan, I believe I know who this is. Maybe first time in the chat though, being involved. I don't blame you guys for picking a better looking picture of yourselves. I'm just kidding. Nice. Anything to improve, the aesthetic.
Yeah, like a mole or something.
Yeah, exactly. And Kevin Honeycutt, Brother Honeycutt says, good evening. Good evening to you, Brother Kevin, out there in North Carolina. So with these passages that Eduardo brings up, good question. Well, I forgot to put in there the Ezekiel passage. One of you guys got it ready there? Will I get the... If you... I'm getting the Bible.
You need to read it?
Yeah. And I'll get the Bible program up here in a minute.
What was it?
3:17.
Okay, I had it. Yeah. Read it.
Yep.
Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word of my mouth and give them warning from me.
All right. So there's the passage specifically laying out where this is said to Ezekiel. And in Bible study and in Bible conversation, you've heard us mention it on the broadcast. You can probably hear it from others as well. Context is king. When you're dealing with material, you got to deal with it in its context. And if it's dealing with something specific within this context, and that's where it needs to stay. For example, Genesis chapter 6, Noah being commanded to build an ark. That was specifically said to him. Nobody today is needing to build an ark. So is there a situation? I mean, are there situations where there are things going on in certain contexts that are then going to find themselves in application to us? Well, yes, you have Mark chapter 16, 15, and 16 for that matter, where the apostles are being commanded. They're given the commission to go out and preach the gospel to the entire world. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved. He that believeth not shall be damned. Verse 16 has a long-running application beyond its context because of the whosoever or the he. That is open. That's a universal he or universal whosoever. From that point on through the rest of time until it finally decides to end, this is going to find its application to he that
He who
believes and is baptized shall be saved. But then you get into other sections within that same context where you run into situations where I would argue that this is, again, addressing to specific people. So you go from a universal application, he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, so that he is universal. But then verse 17 through 19, 17 through 18 finds itself fitting into a specific context once again. That these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. From the denominational, well, not just denominational, but a term that would be used today to describe me and these fellows as well, people would view us as cessationist. That is, that we find the works of the Holy Spirit in this parameter and these miraculous means coming to an end, those ceasing. So then this statement here finds itself in this context, applying to this context and not beyond it. 16 goes beyond the context. 17 and 18, however, would stay within the parameters of the context. And that is a key element to Bible study, making sure that you're properly keeping things in context and realizing where things go beyond the context. So then the question specifically with this and dealing with the Watchmen, how does this play into context today? Well, let's look at the passages that he brought up. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 1 beginning. The elders which are among you, I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. So in this context, we have a special work being placed to the elders, and that they are supposed to oversee the flock where they are, and that is their responsibility. Acts chapter 20, 17 and 18. And from Miletus he sent to Ephesus and called the elders of the church. And when they were come to him, he said unto them, ye know from the first day that I came into Asia, after what manner I have been with you at all seasons. And I think he referenced verse 28 also in that. Yeah. And that's where the elders again are being given the commission that they're supposed to oversee and to feed the flock, the church of God, which he had purchased with his own blood. Hebrews 13, 17. Obey them that have the rule over you. And this again is speaking of elders. Submit yourselves, for they watch for your souls, as they that must give account, that they may do it with joy and not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you. So then when we're dealing with this, yes, these are things spoken in context to certain people and certain offices. Ezekiel is a prophet called by God and given a specific mission and work that he's supposed to do. The elders, and I have that S capitalized there on the end because you're supposed to have a plurality of elders. And I just make that point because in the denominational world, you've got a one-man pastor system. You've got the pastor, though he doesn't call himself elder, and that again is a confusing deal within itself, because in the denominations you have the pastor, but then under the pastor you'll have elders and deacons, but the pastor and the elder are the same thing. So why do you have these two different offices? Because they're not using the terms correctly. So the elders are an appointed work. It's not just an office. It's not just a title. It is a work appointed by God to oversee and to watch over and to have the rule over the church. And there are special qualifications for that work and for that office. 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 7. This is a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. So that's the first thing. It's a work. You got to want to work if you're going to take this position. A bishop or an elder then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach, not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre, but patient, not a brawler, not covetous, one that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man know not how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the... Man, I should have had John Mayer float up. How shall he take care of the church of God? Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride he fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must have a good report of them which are without, lest he fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. So there is this special situation, the special office that comes into play here with the eldership. Now, to the question that he was raising, does it extend to preachers, evangelists, teachers, or perhaps even to all Christian men or all believers? What do you guys think there? I'm going to let you guys go first.
Go ahead. You had a lot more than I did, so.
You don't...
No, go ahead.
I was counting on you going first.
I wanted to hear you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I would say yes. So when we first got this email, me and my wife were coming back from Kalispell, and I had her read to me. And so my first thought was, when we are teaching our children, when I was taught as a child, I think back to Genesis chapter 4, verse 9, and the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, am I my brother's keeper? So as we're children, we're taught, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, yes, we are our brother's keeper. So first, that's the first thing that went to my mind. What would you want someone to do for you? I would want them to keep me. Then we have, that's the first thing that just popped into my mind. Then we have Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. Then we have, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. So number one, brethren. It's addressed to everybody. If any man, or if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, there's no title there going with that. And then bear ye one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. What is the law of Christ? Mark chapter 12, verse 30. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment, and the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. So as we said, they're first addressed to everybody. It's not addressed to all these people with titles. What would you want somebody to do for you? Brethren, if somebody is caught in a trespass, I would want somebody to come get me out of a trespass. So then the other thing that's popping up in my mind is what we were talking about last week when we're bringing up the schools. Shouldn't the schools be teaching everybody to have gospel tent meetings? Well, that's where my mind is going. And again, I am not putting down the office that is appointed by God of elders. But as we just went through Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17, I'm going to set up this idea. It's going to take me a second. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. Obey them that have the rule over you and submit yourselves, for they watch over your souls. Okay. Yes, I agree with that. Okay. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 1. The elders which are among you, I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory and that fadeth not away. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility, for God resisteth the proud and giveth grace to the humble. Number 1, verse 3, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. You are not lording this over anybody. You are guiding them. This is what a real leader does. You guide them to what you want them to be. You don't lord it over them, but you're an example. Why are you an example, an ensample to the flock? So that they can reach that goal with you. So that's the concept. But then, again, as we've pointed out in past episodes and other conversations that we've all had, the elder is not over everybody, and that's just what it is. Now, I'm going to come back to this verse, but to get this thought out that I'm trying to convey, there's Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Okay, here we go. Wives, submit. That's it. Boom.
There's a period.
Huh?
There's a period.
Yeah,
there.
period. Exactly. No, but what did we not do? We did not read verse 21. We got to read everything that's around this verse. He's finishing his thought in verse 21 of what he was talking about, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. We are supposed to submit ourselves to one another. So that's what was just said in verse 21 above. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands. Everybody's supposed to submit to one another. The wives are not just below the husbands. So going back to the 1 Peter, went in gotta find it. Okay, so the elders which are among you I exhort, whom also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory which shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but readiness of mind. That's not where I want. Verse 5. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yea, all of you be subject one to another. We have to take the whole thing. Everyone is supposed to be in subject to one another. We are supposed to be submitting to one another. It's not one class over another. There is a class put in order to help guide everybody along who needs help, but everybody's watching everybody's back. And that just goes back to the law of Christ. That I didn't read that one, but do unto others as you would have done unto yourself, which is Matthew chapter 7, verse 12. Mm-hmm. But what you would want for you or done for you, you need to do for others. I want my back watched. And that goes along with Jesus's law. Now, what's wrong with the brotherhood is that we want to pass the buck. We don't want responsibility. And we go, oh, well, That's their responsibility. And that was something that the preacher here, wherever we're at in Ronan, he would always put himself down because, well, I didn't go to school. And so when any traveling preacher, any elder, any person that wanted to come in vacation Bible school, he looked at them as, oh, they are God. They know what they're talking about. And so he would just back himself down and just be like, well, they know, they're an elder. They're a this, they take that title and they put it over you. And we're not over one another. That's the wrong attitude of how we're supposed to be viewing one another. Even though Micah calls himself an evangelist, we all should be evangelists. We all should be working for, and this is what Reese was talking about earlier, is that we all need to be working for what that list that Micah read that the elders are supposed to be doing. We are all supposed to be working for that goal. So anyways, I could keep going. I don't want to take this, but just to end the idea, in Hebrews chapter 5, going into 6, he's saying you guys should be teachers by now. You guys are babes. You guys are dull of hearing. You should be teachers by now. So everybody's growing together and nobody's over one another. So that was my whole thing when I'm reading that is, yeah, we're all supposed to be watchmen because we're all supposed to be taking part of this mission. So hopefully that made sense. Back to somebody.
Yeah, to add on top of that, what Jordan and I were talking about earlier while we were prepping for this was what came to my mind was the lone survivor. So if anyone's ever watched the movie or read the book, you know that Michael Murphy was the head guy, and then you have Marcus Luttrell, the only lone survivor, and then the other two, Axe, and I always forget the other guy's name, Danny. So Danny, Axe, and Marcus were underneath Murphy. Murphy ends up dying, sacrificing himself for the team to try to get help. So he knew that he wasn't coming back. But then after Mike dies, Murphy dies, who takes leadership then? Is it just, well, he died and he was the leader and, we should just all give up because our leadership died and there's nothing we can do to stand up or anything. No, you keep pushing, you keep fighting, and you work together as the team. I think that's where a lot of Christians out there, as Jordan was bringing up, Christians or denominational people out there all view the eldership, the preacher, the pastor, whatever you want to call it, with all your names in the denominational world, or the biblical way is the elders are on top and in the leadership role, and then you have you have everyone else that is the preachers, the evangelists, and all that. So if there is no elder, who takes responsibility to watch over my back? If there is no preacher, who is there to take responsibility to watch my back? We're not out here trying to overlord the next person going, well, I have this name tag and I'm the preacher, or I'm the evangelist, or I'm the elder, all these different things. You bow down to me. We work together. And that's the main focus, is we work together. That's what the apostles were doing. That's what Jesus was trying to teach the apostles to do, is work together in unity. And that's 1 Corinthians 1:10, is to have no divisions among you, all speaking the same thing. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. So the same mind and the same judgment, there will be no hierarchy in the sense of where the elders are trying to pull you one way away from God, and then the preacher's trying to pull you. They're all going to come to the same conclusion. And I think that's where people forget, and they want to put that hierarchy with the elders. Well, it's their job, it's their responsibility. I'm clean, I don't have to do anything. And then the last thing I was thinking of is going back to the military. If a general dies, the private's not going to be able to take over his position in the sense of having the title general. You get that title general from working your way up there. Now, we just read the list of what it takes to be an elder. So somebody that's a novice would not be able to, so verse 6, a novice would not be able to take the position of an elder. just because an elder dies or anything like that, but we're all supposed to oversee each other. And then that would go back to Galatians 6:1 and then James 5:19, to where we're all supposed to be looking over each other. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye that are spiritual. So the ones that are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. And again, considering thyself. So you're bringing it back down to being humble, and you're not looking at yourself as this better person than the other person. And then James 5:19, if you want to bring that up. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. So if we're all paying attention to what's going on, is we're working together. There's supposed to be unity. The only reason why there is a hierarchy, if you will, that the elders are to oversee and be those people, is to keep everything under control. So I shouldn't have to have an eldership tell me to rule my house correctly. I shouldn't have to have an eldership tell me that my wife is dressing immodestly out in public, or I shouldn't be drinking or doing drugs. I shouldn't have that problem to where the eldership needs to come in and tell me, hey, you're doing this wrong. I need to be the leadership of my room in a household. I need to be the ruler over my household, and working together with my wife for the goal and sole purpose of getting both of us to heaven and our child as well. So with that being said, I don't need the eldership to come in and tell me that you need to be doing these things. I should already know these things. I shouldn't be a novice in the Bible. I should have those things under control and to keep pushing forward. And if you find someone erring from the truth, it's not one of those things that you beat them over the head and tell them that they're bad and don't give them the way of escape. Like I said last week, this is one of the points that I was saying last week, is you don't just beat them over the head and tell them you've done bad, but don't tell them how to do good. You work with them and you convert them back. It's going to take time, but not getting off on that. For my last thing is, to recap, I don't need the eldership to tell me that I'm running my household wrong if I'm doing it correctly. I don't need to not count on them, but rely on them. I don't need to rely on them in such a way that I put all authority on them and I put all responsibility on them. So,
Micah, may I say?
Sure, go for it.
Jordan.
Just to recap on what you're saying, I want to say this at the end, but it goes good here. So that worked out perfectly. Just, it's not that we don't rely on them, because they are an office that have been put there by God to help whoever needs that. And we're all supposed to be there. And that, I know that's what you mean. But it's the idea that, well, I mean, think of all of us. Do we all trust the government wholeheartedly? I mean, we understand that when we say that, but it's a Superman quote that I was thinking when Lois Lane falls and he says, "Easy, miss, I've got you." And she's like, you've got me. Who's got you? Right. And so that's the concept. Who is watching over the souls of the elders? Are the elders the only ones? Now, what happens if they abuse their power? Well, we can see it with the Pharisees. What happened? The Pharisees abused their power, and we see what happened. So does as Reese said with the Marcus Luttrell example, does the system go down because, oh, well, they have the rule? And so it's not that we don't need them, but it's what we were saying with the Hebrews chapter 5, verse 11 and on verse, is that, okay, if you have become dull of hearing and you're only eating milk all the time or drinking milk, I can't talk to you spiritually. You need to get on the meat, and you need to be strong so that you can discern both good and evil, verse 14. And going into chapter 6, verse 1, you leave leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, the early things, the elementary things of Christ, and we press on to be better. So it's not that we don't have elders, it's that we don't use them, as we've said before, parachutes all the time. We're just pulling the parachute, or no, it's trampoline. I did the opposite.
Safety net.
Yeah, it's we use them as a trampoline instead of a parachute, as we've often used in a lot of examples. So yeah, that was I really wanted to make my Superman quote. So that's that. There you
I
go,
love
Micah.
Superman with
Yeah.
great responsibility. Or whatever it was. Great power comes great responsibility. My
And now
favorite
you know
line.
why we said we were gonna take up a full episode.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's it feel like to be us?
Yeah.
Hey, I enjoy it.
Good.
No, those are all really good thoughts, and definitely with the the military aspect.
No.
Even though to to Reese's point, where okay, if the general goes down, the private is not going to be able to automatically step into his role, because there's going to be several people up above him in the pecking order that are going to step in. But that does lead to the point that is ultimately being made, to where even though you have in the military, and it fits because we are soldiers of Christ, that okay, here's the person at the top, but the person underneath needs to know how to do his own job, but then also know how to do the job of the one above in case something happens to him. So if we were all infantrymen and we have our own different responsibilities, and let's say Reese is the radio man, and Reese goes down, well, one of us, me and Jordan, need to know how to do that. Even though it's not my job, I still need to know something about it and how to operate it just in case something happens to him and we're needing air support or something like that.
Basic training.
So
No.
all of that falls into the relationship, or the idea of we're all carrying individual responsibility while carrying the responsibilities that other people have. And the Galatians 6 passage was one that I was also, it was also one that I was going to bring up, and is a really good one to tie into this, because as Jordan said, it's speaking to the brethren that you have the responsibility in doing this. If somebody's overtaking a fault, ye which are spiritual, well, that right within it, that within itself puts a special qualification as to who we're sending out to do this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So who would we want to do this? Would we want elders to be involved in this? Sure. But is it a situation that only elders are the ones to do this? No, there should be a multitude of people inside of a congregation that are spiritually minded, that if we needed to send somebody else out there, we could do that so as to restore such a person. Because to the illustration, what happens if you don't have elders?
It goes back on the men.
Okay, if your elders end up passing away, who are going to be the spiritual to go out and to restore?
Mm-hmm.
That falls back onto the responsibility of everybody involved, and to the point that he brings up in asking the question, does it extend to preachers, evangelists, teachers, so on and so forth? So this is a good practice in dealing with contextual information, but then also asking questions to help piece these things together further. So with this list, and we're looking at this from the standpoint of a watchman, does that carry out beyond just to Ezekiel, and can it in fact find itself with elders, preachers, and even average people inside the congregation? Well, let's take this list of qualifications for an elder, just for example. So this is a list for someone wanting to work as an elder. Now, just because it's talking about the eldership, does that mean that this list does not apply to me as a layman or as a sheep?
It does.
It does. So even though I'm not an elder, a lot of the stuff in this list still finds its application to me. I need to be the husband of one wife. Just because I'm not an elder, that doesn't mean I can have more than one wife.
Unless you're Mormon.
Right. And because I'm not an elder, so that means, oh, well, okay, I don't have to be sober. I don't have to be vigilant. I don't have to be of good behavior. I don't have to be apt to teach. That's an elder's responsibility.
Yeah.
No, if this is a responsibility of an elder, it's also a responsibility for me and everybody else involved. Now, but again, the only difference is that you're looking at this in its full list, and that the person who's wanting this office and work has to meet every single one of these qualifications to get into this office. So with the work that I'm involved in doing, just because I may be doing the work of an elder, and to a large degree, that is what I'm doing here on top of my evangelistic work, I'm not in that office. And partially because I do not meet all the qualifications. I don't have children. I don't have believing children. So therefore, I cannot be an elder. And that's part of the reason why I do not let people call me a pastor. And on top of that, I don't go around calling myself Pastor Micah or Evangelist Micah. I don't do
Reverend.
Yeah,
that.
Reverend
Yeah,
Micah.
I'm just Micah.
And then,
And
yep.
even with the other things I have going on. So with one of the Republican groups, I'm actually the president of that group. I don't go around introducing myself as, oh yeah, I'm Micah, president of the Pachyderms.
Yeah.
I'm just Micah. And that's because even though you have this system in place and you got to have checks and balances, I'm not going around and just flaunting myself with these positions that, oh, well, you've got to pay homage to me and recognize me in my position.
Kiss thy ring.
Exactly. We're all
James.
on the same level here. And even with Paul in his letters calling himself an apostle, the reason why he's doing that is because his apostleship is constantly being called into question.
Mhm.
They're trying to destroy his role in that office. So what does he do every time he writes, or just about every time he writes a letter?
I'm an apostle.
I'm an apostle appointed by God and not by men. So even from that standpoint, you can't look at Paul and say, well, he went around calling him. No, he didn't. And even when he's encouraging other congregations to receive, for example, Timothy, he puts himself and Timothy on the same level. You receive Timothy as though you're receiving me,
Mhm.
and you put him into a place of honor in a position that he's going to come and bring to your remembrance all things that I teach to every congregation. So there's another example right there where you have an apostle establishing somebody else, an evangelist. You could categorize him as an evangelist. Timothy as an evangelist, and he's coming into this congregation to look over them and to watch over them, even though he's not a part of that congregation. So where was I wanting to go next? Did that trigger anything with you?
Yes.
Somewhere out there.
Oh, just
In the
about him
ether.
not like always being whatever when he does go to like brag about himself, if you will. Brag, I use loosely in 2
Right.
Corinthians chapter 11. He's like, oh man, here,
Please give me some room.
give me some room to boast, but I don't want to. But it's only because you guys are saying this. But here, if we're gonna boast, I could be boasting, and not only there, but also Philippians
Yeah.
in chapter 3 or whatever. But yeah, so I was just going along with you.
All right. So all of that just as a exercise to show that even though something is said to a certain person or a certain group of people, it still can find its application with a whole host of people. That list for the qualifications of elders, those are all good things that are needing to be done. Those are all things to be need to be done so as to be righteous in the sight of God. Well, then I need to be doing those things. Well, are you an elder? No, I'm not an elder, but I am a Christian, and these are all things that Christians are supposed to be doing. So then another question, which you guys already kind of touched on it. What if the congregation has no elders?
Yeah.
No one watches?
Anarchy.
Yeah, just, it's like it was in the days of, or after Joshua, that every man did that which was right in his own eyes. There was no king in the land. No, you can't have that. Everybody's got to be involved in watching each other. And even when you have elders, that's the kind of stuff that you're supposed to be having going on. And so just to further illustrate how the eldership is not on a higher plane to everybody else, 1 Timothy chapter 5, you have the rules for rebuking an elder. So he says, rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, the younger men as brethren, the elder woman as mothers, the younger as sisters with all purity. No, that's actually not the passage I was wanting.
It's yeah, I know. It's Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Where you submit yourselves?
No, I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for, hold on here. I think it's a little bit lower. There it is. So it's verse 17.
I'm wrong.
Okay. Yeah, so I was in the right chapter, just in the wrong verse. So this word here, elder, I don't believe is actually describing the office as it is just describing an elderly man. But you get down here to verse 17, it then begins talking about the elders that rule. They'll be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture saith, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn. The labor is worthy of his reward. Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. Them that sin, speaking of the elders, them that sin rebuke before all, that others may fear. So some think, well, the elder said it, so we just got to go along with it. No. the elders are being watched also. They're being watched by the flock. And if you're going to bring an accusation against an elder, you've got to follow these rules. It's got to be before 2 or 3 witnesses. And then, if it is true, them that sin, you rebuke them before everybody. So this whole idea of, well, they're watching everybody else, well, we're supposed to be watching them. So even within that office, there is a mutual watching that is going on. They are not so far above everybody else that they are untouchable within this. So everybody is engaged in watching each other for the mutual benefit. Because as Jordan and maybe Reese brought it up too, it's what they say about absolute power. It corrupts, absolutely. So Jordan mentioned about the government. Yeah, the government's looking out for you. I don't really trust you 100% to do that. Who's watching, who's watching you? And now we have Doge that's, involved in the government because nobody was watching. Everybody was asleep at the wheel. Well, what's going on in a lot of churches? A lot of churches are asleep at the wheel. And that, like what Jordan said, yeah, we're just, okay, that's the elder's job. Let them handle it. So you're just letting them run away with the congregation. And so even from that standpoint, and we're not wanting to make this a lesson on the, practices of an eldership, but the elders in their decision making, before they make a decision, they need to let the congregation know, because they're going to be the ones that are actually implementing the things that you're wanting to march out. Well, what if they're not in agreement with it? So you're just wanting them to begrudgingly march out what it is you're wanting to do just because you say that you need to do it. And well, you're the eldership, so we need to listen. That's not how this operates. So just further passages showing the mutual watching that's going on. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 24 through 26. This is Paul writing to this congregation. He says, and it's dealing with the section and talking about each individual person is a member of the body, member of the congregation. And like a physical body with its individual members, those need to be tended to. For our comely parts have no need, but God hath tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that part which lacked, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. So this isn't just an eldership responsibility. This is every member should have the same care one for another. Whether one member suffer, all members suffer with it, or one member be honored, all members rejoice with it. Everybody's engaged. Just like when my right hand hurts, my left hand takes hold of it. I don't know what my left hand is going to do, but it goes over there and it's just like, okay, I'm here. And I'm
back on a table.
Yeah, and I'm getting signals all over my body. Okay, the right hand hurts. And the body knows. And so you tend to it. Well, that's what we're supposed to be doing as Christians. The sad part is that with most congregations, they're not all plugged in like that together, where there actually is that closeness and there is that real concern for each other. So then where does that fall on? A lot of the times it falls on the eldership. Well, if you got an eldership of 2 or 3 men in a congregation of, I don't know, 50, 100 people, if you're lucky, and you got 3 men trying to tend to all those people, somebody's going to get left out and feelings are going to get hurt there. And that's why people end up leaving. Got anything on that?
Just going to say that's a lot of sheep. No.
No.
Okay. Then also you have Acts chapter 6 with the widows that were being neglected. Those days when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. Then the 12 called the multitude of the disciples unto them and said, it is not reason that we should leave the word of God and serve tables. Wherefore, brethren, look ye out among you 7 men of honest report, full of the Holy Ghost and wisdom, whom we may appoint over this business. And that's not the eldership. If anything, this would fall into the classification possibly of the office of the deacons. So you have the elders that are watching over in a certain respect, dealing with spiritual matters, but then you also have the deacons that are involved and they're dealing with some physical matters. But even with those offices, they can be intertwined and they can actually overlap. If the elders need to be involved in looking into some physical matters of the membership, they can do that. The deacons can't puff up and say, hey, you're stepping in our territory, back off. No, they can't do that. And vice versa. The elders cannot puff up at the deacons dealing with some spiritual matter, saying, hey, you're getting into our territory. You need to watch your step, stay in your lane kind of thing. None of that's going on because we're all in this together. We're all trying to help each other. And then a big one is the Matthew 18 situation.
Oh, yeah. I thought of that one too.
Oh, sure you did.
Right.
Matthew 18:15. Here's Jesus himself laying out the principle of, well, okay, here's what happens when there's a problem amongst two individuals. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell the elders. Is that not what it says?
No, it's not what it says.
Oh, that seems to be what everybody does today,
Yeah, I know.
but that's not what it says.
Go tell Jesus.
Yeah, go pray about it. Go lock yourself in your closet. No, that's not what it says. You, the one that's been trespassed against, go and talk to your brother. So you don't even get anybody else involved. You don't go to the elders. You handle it. Well, how am I supposed to do that? Ye which are spiritual, restore such a one.
And who should be spiritual?
And we all should be.
Yeah.
So this is a responsibility that falls on everybody. If your brother trespasses against you, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone, one-on-one. If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. You've spared him all kinds of embarrassment of having to get other people involved in it and having to get multiple eyes on the situation. It's as though it never happened. Just you keep it under wraps. Everything's fixed. But that's the thing. We're not sweeping this under the rug. We're dealing with this. Hey, you did this. I don't, it's not even just thinking that I don't like it. It actually is a trespass. Hey, you've sinned. You've sinned against me. Oh, okay. I apologize. Didn't realize I did it. Didn't mean to, or yeah, I said it, but that's not how I meant it. Whatever. It's fixed. It's squashed. Verse 16, but if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more. In that situation, if there are elders that can be brought into it, I would try to bring in the elders on that situation. That is, hey, I tried to do this. As Jesus said, I went to him. He wouldn't hear me. Now I need to take witnesses. And the elders might say, well, maybe take these people instead. Hey, that's fine if they can actually handle the situation. But if it were me, I would go and get one or two of the elders if you can. Then in the mouth of two or three witnesses, every word may be established. If he shall neglect to hear them, whoever the witnesses are, then you tell it unto the church. Now, here's the part that gets neglected a good bit as to, well, why are we telling it to the church now? Is it just, okay, we tried this and now we're just telling everybody so that everybody can know? Or is there a reason behind this as to why we're telling the church?
There's a reason.
Oh, what's the reason, Jordan?
The reason is so that everybody can have a chance to go and talk to the brother or
All
sister.
right. Now we're getting down to it.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at this and we're considering all the attempts to try to gain your brother, and do you remember from our Matthew study the importance of that word gain?
It's as if you were going out to get the lost sheep and something.
Well,
My brain.
that's true. That's earlier in Matthew 18. But
Okay.
what are sheep?
They're people.
Livestock.
Okay, livestock.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do with livestock?
I don't know. You eat them
Eat them, or you?
Take care of them.
For what purpose?
Oh,
to,
man.
to eat.
Or
I don't know.
you sell them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's money.
Sell your brethren. I
It's
get it.
income.
Got
This
it.
is a merchant term.
Okay.
He's precious. He's valuable. So you're going out and
I
trying to
remember that,
gain your brother.
Worth a lot of money.
So how many attempts are we making on this? One-on-one. So there's one.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing two or three. Now you got three people in total
Yep.
trying to bring him back. Now you tell it to the congregation, and the entire congregation is now getting involved and trying to bring him back. So let's say you got a congregation of 50 people. Now you've got 50 people involved in trying to bring this brother back to repentance.
Sold to the man. No.
Yeah, it's not just a matter of, okay, we've done this, now we have to tell everybody. No, you're not just telling them for the sake of telling them. You're telling them so then you can get everybody on board and, oh, we all are now needing to get involved so as to help bring this brother back. So all of this it's showing, it's giving a perfect illustration of or a principle to the illustration Jesus just gave about the lost sheep, leaving the 99, going to get in the one.
Mhm.
Here's all of this effort being put to just bring this one person back. And this is how it's supposed to be done. Not just by the eldership, by everyone. And in order to do this, in order to have a congregation that is like this,
Yeah.
everybody
Yep.
has to be involved in this spiritual development, the spiritual growth. And as was said in Galatians chapter 6 and verse 1, in the spirit of meekness, going out and trying to bring somebody back. But that's a tough part. That is a
Yeah.
tough thing to have going on in this day and age, because
Yep.
I mean everybody's so wrapped up
in themselves.
wrapped up in what they've got going on. I've got this to do. I've got this thing going on over here. I've got all this stuff going on in my house and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other.
I work
And-
for school bus. I'm a city councilor.
I didn't bring myself into it, but it then puts, it helps us to be focused on the priorities of life. Okay. Are we going to seek first the kingdom? If I'm seeking first the kingdom, then here's this brother that's in need and falling short. He takes precedent over everything else. And that's that's hard to push self down, to push your own will down and be involved in this for the benefit of others. I don't think right. So I had the rest of it in there, but don't really need to go into an explanation of that. Galatians 6. That's all I had. So what thoughts you guys have now?
For the most part, I think that was it.
Well, just going back to what you just said, is that in order for everyone to do this, and this kind of bleeds on to the next question that we're going to be dealing with, I guess, next week, is the problem, is that nobody. A lot of people in the congregation are not thinking spiritually minded, and they are not. And I lost my verse, so I was looking for it. Let me go back up to the top. No, it's Mark 9 or 12. Sorry. And thou, Mark 12:30, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love your neighbor, thy neighbor, as thyself. There's none other commandment greater than these. So if you are just taking those two and you just think about love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, this is the first commandment. I'm too tired to study today. I'm too tired to deal with. I mean, how many things do we do when we're too tired and we still go out there and do it? Like work, how many of these things do we do? Okay, well, now it comes to the spiritual part. When it comes to the end of the day, you can see a weak congregation by the people that don't want to get involved in that, and I'm going to go into more of that next time. But this is where the problem starts, is that you're not putting God first. Like, that's where we're going. We're not here to work every day and then go on vacation and come back and this is it. We're going to heaven. We're supposed to be going to heaven, and we're supposed to look like Jesus did here now. We're supposed to look like he did. Well, that's a tall drink to drink. Yes, it is. That's a tall order to drink. Order, whatever. I can't think of the thing.
It's a big elephant.
Yeah, it's a big elephant. That is something that we have to live up to be that image of God's son. And are you taking that on? And if you were taking that on, then we could trust the church to do, okay, we are going to go to the ends of the earth because it's so precious. This soul is so precious. We're going to go to the ends of the earth to try and get you back. The other thing that came to my mind is a lot of people think that means that you berate them at the But we never hear Paul go, now Chloe shouldn't have done this, but I'll speak on it. He goes, yeah, I hear this, and in part I believe it's true. And then there's just Matthew 7:15 to the end of the chapter is beware of these false prophets. You will know them by their fruits, and so on and so forth. Jesus is talking, you've got to be on the lookout for this. You need to be on the lookout. And then finally, Ephesians 6:11. Put on the whole armor of God that you don't go too far with your cursor. Put on the whole armor of God that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Who's he talking to? So one of the verses that Eduardo brought up was when Paul is talking to the elders at Ephesus. It's like, okay, is it just the elders we're supposed to be talking about? No. Here is a book or a letter to the church of Ephesus. Put on the whole armor of God, all of you, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against the spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And again, like we're always talking about, you're taking on the full army, but what is that sword for? It's to fight with, and that's for everybody. We all need to have our sword. That's the word of God. We all need to know the word of God, and we all need to be ready to pull that thing out when we need to fight or spiritually guide our brethren back in place. So yes, we're not chopping down our brethren, but we
poke at them.
we are using the word of God to be a watchman, if you will. We are not taking the literal title, because that is to those people. They're the prophets in wherever it's at. It's Ezekiel, it's in Isaiah, it's other couple other places, Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's that context. But when you look at somebody summed up, I looked up a commentary that summed up the role of the watchman, and this is what they said: the role of a watchman, both in its historical context and spiritual application, serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of vigilance, responsibility, and faithfulness in the life of a believer. Through the watchman's example, Christians are called to be alert, to intercede, and to faithfully proclaim God's truth in a world that often stands in opposition to his ways. I mean, if that's what the watchman was doing in the Old Testament, and that's how you would describe them, how does that not perfectly describe what a Christian is supposed to also be doing now? So to go, well, no, that's in the Old Testament, that's a watchman, you can't do that. It's like, no, it's the same thing as we've talked about in all of our verses tonight, that you should be doing over here for your brethren, for yourself, for the elders, so on and so forth. Back to you, Micah.
And even to go back to the Ezekiel passage where Ezekiel is being called out as the watchman, that goes to the point that you and Reese were making about the eldership should not even need to be
interfering.
Well, not even interfering, but it's just
we shouldn't have to rely on them.
Yeah, shouldn't have to rely on them to be telling you, hey, you need to straighten up. I should be knowing to straighten up. Even in the Old Testament with Ezekiel, there was no need for him. And people, please understand me correctly as to what I mean by that. Because God had already set up a group of people that were supposed to watch over the people, supposed to guide the people into what's holy, unholy, what's clean, unclean, what's good, and what's evil. And that's the priesthood.
Right.
So Ezekiel being called out as a watchman was a desperate call, because everybody else was not doing what they were supposed to be doing. The priests were not upholding their responsibility and doing their work and guiding the people into the commandments of God, making sure they were following those. The people themselves were not holding the priests accountable, and the judges and the governors and the kings, princes, whoever else is in authority. No, I mean, it's just nobody is in charge here. So then God calls in this special person at this unique time to come in and says, okay, you need to wrangle these people back in. Well, with that kind of setup, and so even there, where you have the Old Testament priest being the ones to guide and direct and to lead the people, well, under the New Testament system, 1 Peter chapter 2, 5 and 9, we're all priests. We are all in this position of offering spiritual sacrifices and giving that spiritual instruction and spiritual guidance so that we're helping each other through this. And that ultimately just brings us back to the 1 Peter chapter 5 passage, that this is giving us a good lesson and a good dose of being able to humble yourselves, especially under the mighty hand of God, but then also being able to make sure I'm looking right over it.
Pizza plug.
Okay, verse 5. You younger, submit yourselves to the elder. Yea, all be subject one to another.
And clothed with humility.
That just because, all right, I went to the Memphis School of Preaching, I got my piece of paper from there. I also went to the Tri-City School of Preaching. I didn't get my piece of paper from there, but it's just, hey, I've done all of this. I've got all this training. So therefore I'm just way up here above you guys. And you try to come and tell me something, I don't have to listen to you. I can beat you back with my fake degrees. I can't do that. If you come to me with a concern, I need to take it seriously all the time. And I cannot act like, well, you're just some little peon over here. What do you know? And I know plenty of preachers that have tried to do that in the past, and that gets ugly fast. But that's what people will do with this. They'll try to use their position, use their title as a stick to beat people with and to keep themselves in positions of power. We do not need to do that. So very good thoughts. Anything to close on? Anything you got?
No.
All right. That's all I had to close on. So we'll go to our outro. You are invited to come out and be with us at the Church of Christ of Lake County here in Ronan, Montana. Sundays, 10 a.m. for our Bible class. We're in John chapter 20. I really had hopes of closing John 20 today.
What was it, 19 to 23?
Yeah, 19 to 23.
I was like, that's four. Was that 4 verses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're getting closer. We're almost there. We're fixing to close our study of the book of John, and then we're moving on into a study of Acts. So come out and be with us. And our worship assembly follows after that at the Ronan VFW Hall on Sundays. This has been another live episode of the Back to the Bible broadcast, Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and maybe from time to time on Instagram if we decide to do some
You get my good graces.
one-person segments. If you're not in the local area but want to stay up to date with what we're doing, be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Church of Christ of Lake County. There on Facebook, we live stream our Sunday sermons, and we're also sharing doctrinal information from Wisdom That Comes From Above and the Spencer Penn Church of Christ. And anybody else?
Isn't there another Church of Christ? Pleasantville? Has that been coming up? No.
Oh, is that Nick Shipman?
Oh yeah, sometimes he's
yeah,
there.
yeah. Sometimes he's there, and
Okay.
we'll share. I gotta really look through his sermons first
Yeah,
before we share it. Just you never know what's gonna come out of that guy's mouth.
Yeah, I know it.
But yeah, like and follow us over there. You'll get more than just us. We do have a YouTube channel for the Church of Christ of Lake County. Sorry, that is primarily us. Our Bible class is being uploaded there. Matthew is there. John is going there. 1 Corinthians, Caring to Correct, Ways of the Wanderers, some Proverbs information. And then when we move into our Acts study, that will be going there too. And we do upload the sermons to that YouTube channel as well. Gillian Jordan's Wave should be coming up pretty soon.
Yes, hopefully.
Okay. As Jordan gets his material together, we'll let you know when that will be going live for you for another live segment of that. And then our contact information. If you have a question or comment, as you saw tonight, you send us a question in the email, we will answer it. You can email us at cfcoflakecounty@gmail.com. If you would like a free copy of that book, Baptism Unwatered Down, email us your address and we'll get that sent out to you free of charge. If you would like to leave comments on the YouTube channel or Facebook, all that's open. Or if you would like to call us, you can call me at 434-429-5221. Me is Micah, by the way. Go ahead.
You can call Jordan at 406-499-1745.
Or Reese at 406-241-4667.
Because we want to have conversation with you. We want to have dialogue. We want to help answer questions if at all possible. If there is, in fact, a Bible answer for it, we will do our best to find that and give it to you. So, fellas, thank you for being here for another live episode.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody in the chat helping us out with our technical problems. Try to have all that worked out before.
I like how they were all listening though. They're
Oh,
like
yeah.
audio.
Yeah, they're on it. They're fast. I appreciate that because I am rusty.
Yeah.
I am so rusty. But we're glad that you're here with us tonight and giving us your thoughts. And we invite you back next week as we deal with question number 2 from
Yay.
Eduardo's list of questions for us. So thank you for being with us tonight. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Good night to you, Brother Brown. First in the chat, last in the chat. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And we look forward to seeing you next time on another live episode of the Back to the Bible broadcast.